But you used to nurse and drive.
Oh, I did. You guys are going to love that story. Even with the stick shift pickup.
People are wondering how you were able to afford to stay home and homeschool your kids.
We were poor.
We only did cloth diapers for all 12 children.
Yes, that's
right. Did you make those cloth diapers too?
Some of them I did, yeah.
What about car seats?
Oh, we didn't do car seats.
Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. I have my mom here today. I usually post like DIYs and stuff like that, but I'm wanting to post a little bit more like motherhood related type things, and I actually want to have more people on and just chat because I love to learn from different people. But I posted a video of my mom for her birthday over on Instagram a month ago, I guess. And it went viral on Instagram. And basically my mom has had 12 children. She homeschooled 11 of them. How many home births did you have?
7.
7 home births. She's just full of wisdom. And people have a lot of questions for her, and I just thought that I would do a YouTube video just chatting. So I gathered up all of the most common questions on that video, and we're gonna ask my mom. First of all, Mom, tell them a little bit about you.
So I was raised on a farm. Well, my dad raised cattle, that kind of a farm. And out in the country, we had a pet horse named Buttermilk that we rode. I mean, she was just the best horse. And so my siblings and I we just had the best childhood. We just roamed the fields freely, and we really had a nice childhood.
What I think is crazy is my grandma Gold. When was she born?
1918.
1918. She rode a horse and buggy, right?
Yeah, in fact, where they built their house, it didn't have electricity, and she went from door to door on her horse as a married woman to get signatures to apply to have electricity to come out to. They live 5 miles out of this small town, so you know,
and then they built their house.
Yeah, they did, with a horse and tools that you pull behind a horse. I mean, it wasn't an excavator.
So did you always want to have a big family?
Well, I've thought about that question, and I think that was in the back of my mind, because I just have such a vivid memory of when I was a little girl. I had a bedroom in the basement, and most of the time I had a room by myself, and I loved dolls. And
do.
I know I do.
She still buys herself dolls.
I'll be an old lady that has a doll. I mean, you can plan on that. But I had the dolls, and at night it was kind of scary for me to sleep in this bed by myself in the basement in the dark, and I would line up my dolls all beside me like this on both sides, and I would just talk to them and tell them not to be scared, and we were going to have a good night's rest and whatever. And I had like 12 dolls that I would line up in bed with me, and
that's really cute.
So you know, I don't know if it's in a plan that I had, I don't know, but yeah. I found a man that let me have as many as I wanted, so win-win for me.
A lot of people are wondering how many girls and how many boys are there.
Okay, so I have 7 beautiful daughters, and they're all as beautiful as Jana. They're so awesome. They're just such sweet friends to me.
We are all good friends.
And then 5 just handsome, noble sons. They're just such great men.
Yes, they're awesome. It was so funny in that video that we posted, because there was like me and a bunch of my sisters and then a bunch of our kids around, and they all thought they were from my mom. And they're like, this lady is like 65 years old, which was funny because my mom replied, she's like, actually I'm 70.
Yeah, that's my 70th birthday.
So it's her grandkids. But my mom's never dyed her hair, which I think is amazing. So she looks so young. She looks so young. She looks so great. Another question was, what's the age gap between the oldest and the youngest?
Well, it's actually 25 years. Because
Okay.
Jennifer was born in 75 and Jacob was born in 99.
And how old were you when you had the oldest and the youngest?
So I was 20 when I had my oldest, and I was 2 weeks of being 45 when I had my youngest.
Also, all of our names start with the letter J. It took me till I was like 10 before I could name all of my siblings in order. When I was 3, my oldest brother got married. I didn't know if his wife was my real sister or if he was my brother. It was very confusing for me.
And I think there was several of you that way. It's like, well, I don't know. Is he my brother? Is she my sister? And I really like the meshing of the generations, because you grow up with babies so that when you are a mother and have babies of your own, it's not like this big stark
That's
experience, because you've grown up around children and you've helped take care of them and know what they like to do. I mean, you did a lot of entertaining.
Yeah, I was so excited to have kids because I just loved my nieces and nephews so much. In fact, like, that's just what I knew I wanted to do when I got married, and I ended up getting pregnant when after like 3 months of being married.
I know.
Which a lot of people say is crazy, and I see both sides of waiting to have kids versus having them as soon as you can, and I think there's pros and cons to both. People are wondering how you were able to afford to stay home and homeschool your kids.
We were poor. We were. You know, we were very frugal. I did a lot of sewing. I did a lot of sewing of clothes, and I did a lot of laundry, and we just kept doing laundry. So we didn't have a lot of clothes. I grew up with having just everyday clothes and go to town clothes and Sunday clothes.
So like a couple outfits, really.
Yeah, just a few things, and you kept your Sunday clothes nice, and you hung them up, and you didn't romp around in them, you know. Even your Sunday shoes.
You did a lot of sewing.
Mm-hmm.
Like for Easter, she'd always make us Easter dresses, a lot of times Christmas dresses.
Mm-hmm.
She even made some underwear back in her day.
Oh, well, in college I took this lingerie class, and I thought it was...
Lingerie class.
We made a bra and underwear, and yeah, in college. I loved that sewing class, and I learned to make boys' shorts with the fly and everything, and girls' panties. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. My kids did not appreciate their homemade underwear, and I thought it was so cool that I could make these. Isn't that hilarious? Yeah, because
funny.
You guys have a lot of trauma over your granny panties. I did a lot of sewing, and I've always loved to sew. I'd make coats, pants, Levi's. I did Levi's. I did dresses, t-shirts.
You also we only did cloth diapers for all 12 children.
Yes, that's
right.
Did
you make those cloth diapers too?
Some of them I did, yeah. I would get big bolts of diaper flannel and just hem them, and sometimes
with the little pins, you pin them on there. Safety pin them on there.
Pins and
then when there was a
pins.
a dirty diaper, you'd wash it out in the toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because diapers were out by then, right?
Yeah. Disposable diapers were out by the last few of you, but it was just something that I didn't want to spend money on. Yeah, at one time I added it up at the expense of them at that time, and we'd saved like $25,000 by using cloth diapers. So, you know, is that worth it? Well, it's worth it to me, because we didn't have $25,000 to spend somewhere else.
Right.
We didn't go out to eat.
Yeah, I think I only went to McDonald's like maybe once growing up in my whole life. And maybe that was because Grandma Gold took us to go.
Yeah. I mean, even when we go out of town shopping, you know.
Pack some sandwiches.
Mm-hmm.
No wipes. We would have a nice little washcloth in a Ziploc bag, and everyone just got the same washcloth all over their face.
Isn't that great?
I loved it. That was the best.
Although I would do 2 washcloths, one for hands and one for the baby, in case I needed to wash the babies.
What about car seats?
Oh, we didn't do car seats. I think with Jacob, the last one, we finally dug in and got a car seat for him because they were issuing tickets by then. But
you used to nurse and drive.
Oh, I did. You guys are gonna love that story. Even with the stick shift pickup.
Like, how did you do that?
And shifting, and it was great.
But we didn't have a car that fit all of us till, like, I was 10 years old. I remember just sitting on people's lap going to church.
Well, we usually had more than one vehicle at church too, though. But because you did that, because we always brought cousins home on Sundays.
Yeah, that's true. All of the cousins wanted to come to our house because there was a kid of every age, and we just got to do whatever we wanted.
It was fun, and we really liked our kids to have close cousins. I think family is really important.
And being homeschooled, cousins were super important because we had our church friends, but a lot of our friends were our cousins.
Yeah, because I think that that's kind of a hard thing about homeschool is that the public school kids are involved in their own lives, in sports and whatever, and they have a stigma toward the homeschool kids. At least back in that day they did. And maybe you girls are experiencing that too. And so you need to find your own community. And some of these communities, like our one daughter has a homeschool group, and they actually rent a church building and have activities on Thursdays, and all the moms
take turns teaching a class. Yeah, that's really cool.
And having a nursery and tending children, and they've just got it all worked out, and it's just a great thing because the kids can learn to do things that mom either doesn't have time to teach them at home, or just being with a group of kids to learn.
I think that's another question people had, is how many people have homeschooled out of your kids?
Well, 11. So our oldest daughter was a sophomore in college. Is that the question you're asking?
I was asking how many, we can talk about this too, but how many of us have homeschooled our kids? So,
okay.
There's been like 4.
Yeah, that's probably.
I tried homeschooling last year and I honestly loved it, but it was just too crazy. We lived in our little house on our little lot, and my kids were teeny tiny, and it was just too stressful for me. But I probably see it in my future. We'll see though. Do you wish that more of our siblings homeschooled?
I'm not going to answer that question because it's my passion. But they've got to do what's good for them. But I just
Okay. Another question is why were only 11 kids homeschooled versus all 12?
Okay, so that's where I was headed with that other question. Is our oldest Jennifer was a sophomore in high school. She's already involved in sports and whatever, and our second child was going to be a freshman in high school, and that's when we decided to homeschool, and we let her choose, and we didn't let anybody else choose. That's really going to push a lot of buttons for people. And we had a couple of kids that were very angry with us because they wanted to be in public school, but it was all or nothing, and we took them out, and and it turned out okay for them, I feel. I don't know. If they were sitting here, they would probably maybe tell you some things that they were really upset about. I don't know. But we were really glad that we did it. Could we go into the whys now, why we did it?
Yeah, people were wondering what your homeschool why was.
Yeah, we had several issues. One, of course, was...
Sorry, she stinks.
The dog is there, if you're wondering. It's not a baby, it's a dog. They can't see the dog, Jenna.
It's not my mom, it's not a baby, it's my dog.
Well, the whole religious thing is one of the issues. And the kids learning about evolution, and so to me...
It was very secular. And
yeah, it's very secular. When I was in school, I remember my second grade teacher telling us a Bible story every day when we got in from lunch.
That's so cool.
And we prayed every day, and we said the Pledge of Allegiance, and we were taught kindness and respect. And of course, you know, now they can't do that. Another one was the kids would come home from school. They'd been in school all day, and they'd come home with these piles of homework.
Yeah.
And assignments for the parents to do with the kids. We had a life at home. I wanted them to come home and have chores to do, responsibilities, family life where they all felt vested in family. And another thing was they would get off the bus and they would be bickering and fighting, and it would take like 2 hours for everybody to settle down and be nice to each other before we were a family again.
Yeah, I feel that. My kids are like that too.
What's going on?
Yeah.
I hated all of that. And so we just decided to homeschool, and I don't regret it 1 minute. There were lots of holes in our homeschool, lots of things where I didn't teach them, I didn't have time to do that, I didn't have the skill or the intelligence or the learning I needed to teach them, such as advanced math and some of the sciences and stuff, chemistry and, you know.
Right.
But they can go on to junior college. I mean, almost everybody graduated by the time they were 16. They could go on and take college courses, they could, and now you can do online. I mean, you have so many resources for these kids now that we didn't have back, we didn't have all the electronics.
I think that it's like there were holes in my education, but also I got to learn how to work really hard, and I got to learn my interests at a really young age, and I got to have time to really experiment with different things. I took that into my adulthood knowing my interests. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's hard to do when you're in school all day.
To talk about that a little bit, so Jennifer, your oldest sister, in all the tests, are they called asset tests? ISAT tests. Mm-hmm. Then at parent-teacher conferences, they'd, you know, the teacher talked to me how she did, and she was not a good test taker. It's not like she was flunking them, but she wasn't getting A's, and she was a very intelligent person, but she never tested well.
Right.
And so she always felt dumb.
Yeah.
Because she didn't get high scores on these tests. Children are not the same. Personalities are not the same. Adults are not the same.
One of my kids was not ready for reading, and it felt like I was trying to teach a 6-month-old how to walk. Mm-hmm. Like his mind just was not ready for that. Where my other child, she just picked up on it like 2 years sooner than he did, which is great because they're both great at different things. Mm-hmm. But there's not a lot of room for that in public school.
Well, and some of the things, I think it's some of the things that I saw you doing as a child. You loved nature, you loved little animals, and you were always being the mother to some little orphan bird or
mice.
Oh, she said she had mice in the house for a while.
I kept them in my bedside table drawer because my dad wanted me to kill them when they came out of the pipe when we were farming, and I would just put them in my pocket instead.
And another fun thing that you did is we had these mismatched socks, and I keep them in a drawer. And anyway, she started making Barbie clothes out of these mismatched socks, and she would make the cutest little things. And then we had a little Boston Terrier dog, and she would make these little hats, just so cute with lace and ribbon, and dress up the dog. And
that's what I spent all my days doing. I mean, I did school, but then I did that too.
I mean, you know, that's a lot of creativity, and you had nobody around you telling you we were stupid or that was ugly.
Yeah, that's true.
Or what are you doing that for? And
then I also babysat a ton, and I felt like that was such a great learning experience too, because that's my career now, is I'm a mom, but also it just taught me a lot of like life lessons.
Well, and you also saved your money. By the time she graduated early and wanted to go to beauty school, she had $10,000 saved from babysitting.
Yeah.
that she used toward her education. How can you bark at that? And besides that, we weren't giving you money either.
You guys would always provide the essentials for us, you know, shampoo, conditioner, soap, that kind of thing. But if we ever wanted anything extra, we would pay for it ourselves.
Yeah, your
so
makeup.
I was very motivated to do that. At a young age, I've always loved like dressing a certain way and having hair products. And so I would babysit and then I would buy myself those things.
And so we were really frugal that way. I also cooked from scratch, baked all of our bread. We had a large garden and we would can our food. We didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
We just were very frugal with the way we lived, and that's how we raised our family.
There's nothing wrong with being poor. There's really not. In fact, you learn so much from being poor. It's not always fun to be poor.
My mother always told me that soap and water are cheap. And so I always wanted to make sure that you were clean, you were not dirty, your clothes were presentable, mended, you know, and
you did a good job.
I didn't want to present you to the world as this poor little orphan, or you know.
Right, we were always clean and we looked loved. You had our hair done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I think that you can get along with living without a lot of things, and I see a lot of the mothers on Instagram now that are turning away from their careers and their jobs and their high-paying jobs to stay at home and be mothers and to be frugal so that they can stay
at home
with their children.
With having so many littles around, how were you able to get everything done? Between like gardening, sewing, canning, all that, how were you able to get so much done?
I think that we as mothers, and we start having our littles, we tend to want to do everything for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so when more and more came, then the older ones would have responsibilities and jobs that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So we would start like doing a job chart, and we would rotate every week so that the next week they had different jobs. Like they would pick up all the toys and vacuum the living room. They would clean the bathrooms if they were at that. They would take out the garbage. They would make meals.
Yeah, at 8 we all started making a meal.
Mm-hmm.
Or like 3 a week, right?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And so as a homeschool mom, that is our biggest challenge, because all of those people in public school, there's a janitor, there's a lunchroom lady, plus there's parents at home that are washing their children, getting them dressed, feeding them breakfast, and bringing them to school.
Right.
All of those people, and now you're it. You're everyone.
You're everything.
You've got to delegate some of these things to the children.
Yeah.
And the big plus with this is that it unites and bonds your family, because the children realize that mom's not having me do this just because she doesn't want to do it.
Right.
I've actually had people tell me, "Oh, you had all those children because you didn't want to do all those things." And I'm like,
if you've ever tried to teach a kid a chore, you would know that that's not true. Because it takes a lot of work to be able to get a kid to independently do a chore by themselves. So to even get to that point is a huge accomplishment.
It really is. And then if you can train them that we're depending on you to have dinner tonight. We're depending on you. And they know the family's depending on them, and what am I going to have for dinner? And so with the dinners, I'd say, you make your menu of what you want to make, and I'll make sure the groceries are in the house.
Right. But a lot of times it was like, we just kind of looked in the fridge or the pantry, and we got really good at just making something out of like wheat berries and fruits and vegetables from the garden.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't have fancy ingredients.
We had canned food downstairs.
Yeah.
We were all cooking from scratch. But if you wanted to make a lasagna or something, those were things that I didn't have in the pantry.
Right.
So we'd have to make sure to buy those. But yeah.
But that's something I love from my childhood is I can look in the fridge and my husband's like, how did you come up with this meal? Because I've just done it since I was 8 years old, basically.
And you are a really good cook.
Oh,
she makes
thanks.
really
My
delicious
mom is
food.
an amazing cook.
But you've been cooking since you were 8, so.
Yeah. So for like 20 years.
Yeah.
I think something too that I brought from my childhood is you never like entertained us really. Like I don't ever remember you like, okay, here's these toys and here's these toys, now this is something to do. It was like you were doing your thing, like maybe you were sewing downstairs and we would just entertain ourselves. So we'd get toys out, we'd build a fort, we would sew by you. And I see that a lot as I do projects throughout my house. Like wherever you are, your kids are just gonna come and they're gonna be by your feet and they're just gonna work by you. And they're gonna learn while you learn. And I just think that that's kind of cool. Like, I think as moms, sometimes we just think we have to entertain our kids all the time, but it's really not necessary. Like, they'll be fine. It does take some practice for them to learn how to play independently, and that you're not going to come in and give them something to do, but...
Well, and it develops their imagination.
Yeah.
When they have to think of what do I want to do. But also with homeschool, if you've got a schedule, it's like you've got to accomplish this today, you know, and we've got to get through this, and then you're going to have some time to yourself, and you're thinking, what am I going to do when I'm all done, you know?
Yeah, we were so busy during the day that I was so excited to just do what I wanted after we were done working or...
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I was the same way. It's like, well, if I can get an hour to myself today, what am I going to do? I remember this one time, I just had so much on my plate. And I just prayed that morning and asked for help. Please help me that I can get this done. It's all got to be done today.
We've all felt that way, right?
And you know what? When I said my prayers that night and reported, I had it all done.
That's amazing.
I mean, we can expect help from angels, and
I do feel like prayer is really important as a mom.
Yeah.
Just like, please give me patience, please
forgive me.
Forgive me. Help me to see my kids the way that you see them. Because sometimes it's daunting to wake up and be like, okay, I gotta do this motherhood thing again today.
Yeah, and I just want to say to all of you that are homeschooling, I'm just rooting for you. I'm your biggest cheerleader. Well, when we started homeschooling, I thought, wow, how are we going to do this? Is this the right decision? And I'm sure all of you have thought this. My children's future is in the balance. Mm-hmm. And I can report to you now that it was worth all of it, and I wouldn't change any of it. So just go, girls, go. One little sweet experience we had was, let's see, when our youngest was born, it was a little boy, and then we had 4 girls in between the 2 boys, and our next boy was like 12. So that we had 12-year-old, and then we had 4 girls, and then this little boy there at the end, and this little baby. And as you know, and you ask, how do I manage my time? How do you get it all done? And infants take so much time. And just remember that sometimes the baby is the lesson, and how you take care of your baby, and what you do with your baby, and how those children learn to take care of the baby, and how important it is, how they treat each other. Maybe it's a lesson for that day. Like these little girls were learning to read, and you have to do their math with them. I mean, the little ones, you've got to be there with them with their lessons. When they get older, then you can just teach them a concept and off they go, you know. But the little ones, you've got to read with them, you've got to do their math with them, help them with whatever, your worksheets or whatever. And so I was just trying to work it all in with our baby. And my 12-year-old says, Mom, let me bathe the baby every day while you help them read.
That's so cute.
He volunteered.
That's so
and
cute.
So he did. He bathed his little brother every day, and that was part of his homeschools.
Which he's an amazing dad now.
He is. He bathes his children now. He puts them to bed. He's the best father. And
I think we feel guilty sometimes. Like it could have been really guilt. You could have felt that mom guilt and been like, oh, I don't have time to bathe my baby. But that was such a cool opportunity.
Yeah, and it was just such a relief on me because I didn't have it in the back of my head that my baby needs a bath. I could just relax and enjoy this time with whoever I was helping.
Well, now my mom has how many grandkids?
47.
And how many girls and how many boys?
24 boys and 23 girls. Isn't that something?
So crazy. And I'll tell you what, when you have a baby, well, when I have a baby, my mom comes and she puts all these meals in the freezer. She makes you good food. She helps with your baby in the night. It's a dream. It's the best.
It's really, really fun. I just love that.
Yeah, you're a legend. I'm so glad you're my mom. I love you.
Oh, I love you. What was the hardest part about raising 12 kids? The lack of sleep. Number one, for sure. And I'm sure that you all feel it. We had a thing where we got up and did scripture study together every morning, right?
Yeah.
As a family, and had family prayer before they started farming, before anything started happening. And it didn't matter if I was up in the night with sick kids or whatever, I got up and we did that together. And so sometimes I was burning the candle at both ends for sure. And
you needed a nap.
And that didn't happen either. So the lack of sleep was actually the hardest thing. Oh, yeah, I had a great midwife though that came, and I loved home birth so much. I loved home birth.
Yeah, your midwife was amazing.
She has passed away now, but she was such a wonderful woman. Our fifth child, I was planning on having a midwife, having my first home birth. And I was carrying my 18-month-old around one day as I was pregnant. I was almost at the end of my the gestation, and I fell, and it tore the placenta loose, and so I started to bleed. And anyway, I ended up having to have an emergency C-section. And for any of you, I have a lot of empathy for you that have to have C-section, because I was like, if I have to do this again, I'm never having any more children. I hated having a C-section. And that's when I found that midwife moved away, and she suggested this other woman that helped women with babies. And so I called her and asked her, and she says, I've never helped a woman have a vaginal birth after cesarean before, but if you do everything I say, then I will help you. And they were doing vaginal births after cesarean back east. In fact, I bought a book and read it and read up on home birth, and it was something I wanted to do. And I did everything she told me to do. Lots of herbs, lots of herb teas, lots of exercises, walking, whatever she told me to do, I did, and I just had the most amazing birth that next time. And then she helped me with all
But then the doctor told you not to have any more kids after that, right?
Well, I don't know if he told me not to have any more kids. That C-section, you know, all I took into the hospital with me, well, my midwife came with me, and she had done all this prenatal checks and stuff, and she had all the records there, and the people at the hospital totally ignored them and treated us terrible, like we were idiots. And the doctor offered to have me, while he was doing the C-section, is to tie my tubes. So he didn't actually say don't have any more kids, but he offered to tie my tubes, and I just said, no, I'm not ready to make that decision. And so. But
what I think is crazy is usually after you have a C-section, they say, oh, you can have like 3 or 4 more kids, and then you should probably be done. But you had 7 more kids after that.
Mm-hmm. If that's something you're thinking about and something you have questions, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, you can leave them down below. My mom I'll try and answer them maybe.
Yeah.
And, you know, maybe we'll have her on again sometime.
Love all of you great girls.
Yeah.
I'm just so proud of you, and good job being moms and trying so hard, and you'll never regret all the time that you've spent with your children doing homeschool, because I just remember like sitting down with a book and reading to my children and having them learn to read and all of those things, spending all of that great time. I wouldn't trade that for anything. No career, no amount of money, nothing.
It's amazing. Isn't she amazing? I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.